Pleasure to be here.
Family Television, you are welcome to Transformed Lives program. Now tell us, what does Transformed Lives program, the moment you hear it, what does it mean to you?
It means someone having gone through a change, because transformation in generation of electricity means where you go through a process of water from the Nile, before it gets into the Nile, coming from Lake Victoria, and going through the waterfalls and the turbines, and then the water is transformed into electricity, hydroelectric power that comes into communities in urban settings and does things that would not have been there. And so that's what comes to mind. A transformed resource, and even human beings also experience transformation so that they have value added to the experience.
Wonderful. Now you are the subject and the object of Transformed Lives program. Tell us, share with the viewers, where do you come from? Where were you born? Give us that kind of starting point in your life. Take us through your school system, and so that we know more about this subject.
Thank you. Hello viewers, it's a pleasure to see you and to be part of this Transformed Lives program. I was born in the beautiful hills of Chishanje in Rubanda district, which is west of Lake Bunyonyi, and wasn't born in hospital or healthcare setup, was born in the plantation next to our house. That's what I'm told. And my mother had an easy push, and there I was crying for attention. And I went to school. I started at Kajera, Church of Uganda Church School. That was my kindergarten experience. And after that, I went to Kachero Primary School, which was 2 miles from home. So every day I went to school. Monday to Friday, I trekked 2 miles to school and 2 miles back, barefooted. And that was quite an experience. I was blessed when I was in P4 to be brought to Kabale town by my father, who had a sister that lived there. So he said, you come and I take you to go see your aunt.
So in terms of years, when were you born, and when was that?
I was born in 61.
As we were going to Kabale, in 61?
Yes, so going to Kabale was early 70. That was after Idi Amin had taken over, and life was a bit scary, and but we still lived. And one of the things that my father did when we were approaching Kabale town, he pointed out to a school, and he said, son, that is the school where the children of rich people go. And we were not rich.
Which one is that?
The school was, later I discovered it was Kigezi High School, because my father did not tell me what the name was.
That was my school.
He just said that over there is a school where sons of rich people and daughters of rich people go. And in my small primary school child said, I said, you know, that's a school I should go to. Even though I'm not rich, there is a way. And the way is the way of passing and going to the school. So what my father did, by taking me from west of Lake Bunyonyi, crossing the lake in a dugout canoe to cover the town, gave me a view of what was beyond the hills that I had grown up seeing. And in a sense, that transformed my geographical understanding of my environment.
Wow. Coming from beyond the lake, crossing the lake into the town of Kabale.
Exactly. It was a different kind of world for a little boy.
Yes. So you go to this school?
So I actually went back to primary school, Kachelere, but was reading with a vision of going to this school, which I, when asked, was Kigezi High School.
Yes.
P7 comes, I put my first choice in Kigezi High School. My father says, son, we are not going to afford it. I said, hey, there's nothing wrong with putting my choice there.
Yeah.
He said, son, you may not even get the marks. I said, don't worry, let's go.
Yeah.
And I passed by God's grace.
Wow.
Even though grace is as universal as everything, I can't claim I had a hold on a knob for grace. But I passed. And I was actually admitted to Kigezi High School. And I went to Kigezi High School in 1975, I believe.
75.
And I was one of the youngest and smallest boys, went to Kigezi High School bare feet. And I became the inspector of feet in my class because everyone was wearing shoes.
Yes.
And I was a bit timid because I tried to hide my feet and they couldn't.
So you went to Kigezi High School in 70?
75.
75.
Senior one.
Okay, I had left because I went in 62.
Okay.
Yes.
A year after I was born. So Kigezi High School was a turning point in some ways because then village boy from Nyanja across the lake, overseas.
Overseas. Oh, you are from overseas?
I'm from overseas. Here I was on this other side of the lake, two different worlds, and in the same classes with people who had come from over Uganda.
Yes.
And I said, I'm going to read. So I made friends with the son of the headmaster. The headmaster at that time was a British man, Mr. John Martin.
John Martin.
And his son, Graham Martin, took me to their home and showed me his cache of books. I was astounded at the number of books this young man had in his room.
Okay.
Because I didn't have any textbook right from P1 to P7.
Okay.
So I devoured the books that he had, the stories, boy stories, and that helped my English. I tried to speak to him.
Fast forward, because of the time we have, you can take us through the whole educational system.
And I finished Kigezi High School.
Yes, high school.
And then came to Makerere University.
Wow. In which year?
1983.
1983.
And Makerere University was a place of expanding my horizons and trying to flex my muscles in student leadership.
Yes.
And that's where I participated in leading a demonstration or a strike at Makerere University in 1984. And I was arrested from the Freedom Square.
That was
Obote 2.
Yeah.
By the Inspector General of the Police Force of Uganda, then Inspector Okoth Ogora from the Freedom Square.
Yeah.
I was brought with Ogengo Tunu and Ruchima.
What were you demonstrating against?
Against the fact that there were things we were supposed to get at the university as students, but we are not getting there.
Yeah, welfare.
Welfare.
And what course were you doing?
I was doing a Bachelor of Science. And so I found myself in an underground police cell.
Yes.
With those two other gentlemen. And it was a place of humbling circumstances. Where we had been at the university leading, now we are being led into bondage, where we couldn't do anything.
Yes.
And it was during that time in the police cell that I read the Bible, this time not because it was a Sunday, not because it was a classroom requirement, but it was a seeking for someone who could get me out of the prison cell.
As we come back to that, When you were growing up in Kacherere and growing up in Kigezi High School, what was your take about religion, about faith, about the Bible in general? What was your position?
I was baptized as an infant, so I knew that by family choice I was a Christian.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything wrong with that. In Kigezi High School, I had a number of friends who had a relationship with Jesus Christ as saved people. And I used to mock them and think they didn't know what they were doing.
Yes.
I used to think that salvation was for the weak and those who didn't have a strength of their own.
Yes, who were not
exactly
transformed.
For the old men and women who were toothless, and not for, you know, a strong Mochiga boy like me who had climbed mountains, crossed the lake, and you know, chased hills with goats and cows. So faith was, I saw it as, you know, something that I grew up into.
Yes.
It was something that I didn't have to buy or pay for. But I happened to be.
So the church was very familiar to you. You used to go to church.
And we went to chapel, Kigezi High School,
and to pray
and read lessons in the chapel. My friends would, as a way of getting me into the chapel, they would say, "Hey, we'll give you a text to read, so you come to chapel."
Yes.
And it was routine. It was routine, usual practice as well.
Yes.
Kigezi High School, having been a church founded by, you know, missionaries and being a church overseen school, going to chapel was the in thing.
Yes. Now, Ben, take us through back to the cell. You are in the cell. You have the Bible. Well, then what for?
Well, I had an interesting coaching experience with the Holy Spirit, because it's like when I left and I wasn't attending lecture rooms and hearing all these things about the Big Bang and how I became a living being according to science. I started reading the Bible to while away time.
Yes.
And then I came to Romans chapter 10, verse 13, that says, "Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." What struck me was being saved.
Being saved.
Because I was in a place where I needed salvation.
Yeah.
I needed to be saved from being in a cell, in a prison cell.
You in a cell?
Yes.
CBC?
Yes.
Central Police Station?
Yes, underground.
For how long were you there?
We were there for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And I usually tell people that that's similar to my Jonah experience, being in the belly of the whale for 3 days,
yes.
where you really not conversant with what's going on outside. Your cell is your bathroom, it's your, if they bring you food, it's your dining room. Really? It's a combination of those.
Yeah.
And not a cool thing for someone who was a proud leader of students at Makerere University who thought you had clout.
Okay.
So it was a humbling experience.
It must have been.
And so that scripture hit me as a point of looking beyond the enclosure of the 4 walls of the prison cell to someone, first of all, the Lord. You know, someone must have been out there in the name of the Lord.
Yes.
And I recognized that calling is not something you become complacent about. Calling is an active involvement.
Yes.
If I'm calling Dr. Robert, I have to call you. So I say, the Lord, I don't know where you are and if you are hearing, but I need salvation, because the Bible has said that whoever calls on your name shall be saved.
Did you say those things in a prayer, or it was your thoughts?
Like a conversation.
It was a conversation.
Conversation.
Deliberate conversation.
Deliberate conversation.
Yes.
Which, in looking back and reflecting, that is what prayer should be. You know, God is with us.
Yes.
He's real.
Okay.
And so I don't have to create a prayer artificial setting when I want to talk to God.
Yes.
I
So,
can talk to
to
him.
God.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can talk to him like I'm talking to you. And he hears.
Yes.
And he understands. So we were released from the police cell the next morning, taken to Buganda Road Court, and the case against us was opened for holding an unlawful assembly.
Yes.
Fortunately, we were released on bail. People came. I didn't know this gentleman who came and said I was to stand shorter for Ben Tumuheirwe.
Yeah.
And he said, where is he? He didn't know me. I didn't know him. And he was Yoga Andola. That was his name.
Yoga Adola.
Adola. And he was, I think, the editor of
Yes.
the national paper of that time.
Yes, I remember him.
That's what he said. And he said, okay, don't run away. I'm going to stand in for you so that you are released on bail.
How did you do that? In what capacity did you do that? As a friend or a political representative?
I had no clue. And all I was grateful for was that someone showed up
So if
when
you-
I needed.
If you had not, you'd have gone back?
I don't know. It was up to the powers that were.
Okay.
And in my thinking now, this is where I believe that even if you don't know who Jesus is, he paid bail for you. Even if you think that you don't have any relationship with Jesus Christ, dear,
Now we shall come back to that.
you
Taking us through the journey.
you see there is
Yes.
a sense in which we are in a community where what you get is based on the technical know who. Whose son are you?
Yes.
Whose daughter are you? It seems to be that that's the norm of getting through life here. So for me, someone who didn't know my father, who I didn't know, and he didn't know me, and yet he came and said, here I am to walk the journey with you.
With you. Wow.
In itself was a step towards transformation.
Yes, yes, yes. I hear you. That was wonderful.
You know?
What's happened next?
Of course, we were released on bail. We went and met the president later in the evening.
The president of Uganda?
Exactly.
That was Milton Obote.
Yes.
In his office? At
In
home?
Parliamentary
Yes.
Avenue. We met him in the office. We were kept in a waiting room for hours after being taken out of court.
How many were you, by the way?
3. I was with the guild president and the president of the national youth of the party.
Any names in case they are listening to this?
They may not be here.
They may not be here. Okay.
I have not stayed in touch with them.
Yes.
But the guild president was Ogengo Tunu,
Okay.
brother to Olaro Tunu.
Olaro Tuno.
And the other one was Uchima Okero. And so
I hope Olara and Kero, you are viewing this program?
whether they're here or they're abroad, I do not know. But hey, I'm still around and living and enjoying the Katongo
Yes.
of Uganda.
And with the Kora, we shall come to that.
That's transformation.
Transformation. So you meet the president?
Yes.
Yes. What do you discuss with the president?
You don't discuss anything with the president. You listen to the president.
Yes. What did he tell
He
you?
said we were giving him trouble. He pointed out to his bodyguard men and he said, you see these men? They exist to do one thing, to protect me from my enemies. Right now you are my enemies. We knew that I had already made that commitment.
Yeah.
I knew I had called on someone who was powerful, who was the Lord.
Yes.
And so I realized